Hey, what's going on, guys? Chris here from Signs of Life. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about a very special topic, emotion in ambient. What you're hearing in the background is a simple patch that I came up with before we started. Let's go check it out. We have an instance of plates here. Now, plates is set to one of its particle noise generators, and it's being modulated. And I'm sending the sound through my Instruo arbor. The arbor is an amazing granular processor, so that sound is being recorded, shifted in both pitch and direction. And then finally, I'm sending this sound out to my Qubit Stardust, which is a tape looper slash processor. And if you dial in the vari-speed control to just the right amount, this is what you come up with. And if you add a little bit of reverb and delay, oh yeah. So we're gonna start here with this. And like I said, the topic of the day is emotion in ambient. How do we get more emotion? How do we create tracks that you can feel? That's what we're gonna talk about. Anyway, if that's what you're into, please do stay tuned. Thank you for being here. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we are in Ableton Live 12. The goal with today's video is to build an ambient track from scratch. And while we do that, we're going to be talking about the topic emotion in ambient. Now, before we start, I want to give credit where credit is due. This morning, I attended a Bandcamp listening party for California-based artist Firefly and her new album, Temporal Tenderness. It was an amazing experience because this style of ambient music is exactly the type of ambient music that we're going to be recreating here today. It was full of texture and subtle details. And what she did is she really developed a connection between the artist and the listener. And ultimately, that's the kind of thing that you want to do when you're trying to get more emotion into your ambient music. So I highly encourage you guys to go check this album out. It's an amazing album. And yeah, if you want to support your favorite artist, Bandcamp listening parties are a great way to do that. Okay, so we're going to play in 77 beats per minute, and I'll be playing in A minor. And let's go ahead and cue up the sample that we created earlier. Okay, so PowerPoint, let's go ahead and dive straight into it. Emotion in ambient. Emotion lives in the human details. Slight detuning, subtle pitch bends, or even a note that lingers just a little bit too long. These are the kind of things that can help you add more emotion to your ambient music. It's that slight detuning, right? It's the little bit of pitch bend that you put onto your keyboard. On the arbor over there, there's a great pitch knob where if you just tune it a little bit to the left, it takes a straight sawtooth wave and makes it kind of warbly, kind of human-like, a little bit unison. That's the kind of thing that can really add a lot of emotion to your ambient. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in here. Now, to accompany this sample, what we're gonna do is create a nice kind of subtle pad underneath it that really supports what we're trying to create here. So I'm gonna use Serum 2. However, feel free to use any of the techniques that I do in any other synthesizer of your choice. All right, so let's go ahead and add some attack here. 3 seconds of attack, lower down the sustain, add some decay here, add some release. And instead of the default sawtooth wave, let's grab a wavetable. I'll go into the Serum 2 tables folder. And there's a great table in here, of course, the plates modal. I mean, of course, right? Anyway, let's go and listen to this. Oh yeah, very nice, very nice. So you can hear there's like some timbre change in that, and that's the kind of wavetable that you really want to go for when you're trying to add more emotion into your pads. All right, so let's add some unison here, maybe 5 voices of unison. We'll lower down the detune, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna modulate that detune. So it's gonna kind of come in and out of being tuned and detuned. Check this out, okay? So we'll add some subtle motion there in the detuning itself, all right? To do that, we're gonna use an LFO, and we'll use the sample and hold LFO all the way smoothed out. And we'll put it in free running mode, of course, and we'll put it into hertz, and we'll slow it down significantly to like 0.05 or 6. And we'll add this to the detune ever so slightly, okay? We don't want to overdo this. So it's just subtly taking it out of tune, ever so slightly. We're also gonna move the wavetable position, all right? So let's use another LFO for that. We'll use, say, a chaos modulator here. Put it in free running mode, lower down the speed, drag it on the y-axis over to the wavetable position. Slow it down even more, maybe 0.03. Oh yeah, perfect. That'll work. So now our wavetable is in motion and we're subtly detuning this. Oh yeah. Love that. Excellent. So we're adding something that's really supporting that sample already. I like where this is going. All right. Great. So now let's add another oscillator here. And this can be kind of a standard oscillator. We're also going to turn on the filter here, put them both through filter 1. And let's go to analog here, basic shapes, and we'll just make a subtle triangle here. We'll add some voices of unison as well, lower down the detune. You also want to come into the unison menu and make sure that you lower down the width. You don't want to let the width get away from you, so I'd say somewhere between 50 and 70% is good. There we go. Perfect. All right, so now we got a nice subtle triangle as well. And what we can do is use that triangle wave as the phase distortion for our first wavetable. So what I mean is come to the warp mode over here, add some phase distortion or PD from B, and we'll use that same chaos modulator on the x-axis over here to do that. Oh yeah. So you can hear that subtle phase distortion coming in and out as well. Oh yeah, this is nice. We haven't even added any effects yet. Oh yeah, this is really good. Excellent. Okay, now let's come over to the effects. We'll add, say, a compressor here. Put it into multi-band mode, add some gain, add some attack, add some release. Bring out some of those details. Now you can hear the phase distortion. Oh yeah. Now I'm gonna use my own reverb and delay. Again, I've gone over this in several of my videos already. This is the Valhalla delay here with a dual dotted eighth note delay. Go ahead and copy those settings if you like. And of course, I'm using the FabFilter Pro R2 set to the Olancha Farewell preset. Okay, let's go ahead and add that here. Nice. So it's not too much, right? It's just enough where you feel like there's motion underneath you, but at the same time, it's not overpowering what's already there. I like that. Oh yeah. Now, note choice is important here, so I want to emphasize that. Like the type of chords that you're playing, the type of notes that you're playing. This is a very individual process, so I can't really, understate that enough. Like you really have to dial in your own personal process of how you input the notes, whether it's recorded or you're just drawing them in, what chords are you using. It's all about experimentation though, all right? So let's put it into scale mode here. We'll turn off the fixed grid, okay? So I'm gonna undo snap to grid. I'll grab my pencil tool and we'll lay in some notes here, okay? So I'm just holding down an A minor chord, but then I'm gonna play some notes up here. I really like that F note on the top, okay? Let's find that F note, I think it was up here. I'll add this note right here. Another A. Oh yeah, I love that played sample. Oh my God, it's so good. add a D note here, and maybe we'll add one more. Let's zoom out so you guys can see this. I'll get out of the way. Okay. Like I said, a little bit too long there on that note. There we go. All right, and maybe we'll add one low note down here. Just a nice low A note to round it off. Okay, let's hear what this sounds like. Oh yeah, that's gorgeous. Wow. Really nice stuff. Okay, so we got our pad, right? And I think the techniques that I showed you really kind of drives home the points I was making in the PowerPoint. Slight detuning, subtle pitch bends. These are the kind of things that can really add a lot of motion. All right, so let's go on to point number 2. Instead of chasing chords or scales, chase the feeling. Let your sound choices lead the way. Dark, hollow drones for grief, shimmering pads for longing, fragile textures for nostalgia. Emotion is often more about timbre than harmony. So, on this channel, I show you a lot of sound design techniques. And a lot of you are asking, oh, which chords do I make? How do I put them together? When you're going for emotion, you can throw all of that out the window. Just go for the textural aspect of it. Use notes that maybe don't even go together. Use sounds, juxtapose different sounds together that might surprise you. You're gonna find that the less you stick to a strict method of working and you experiment more and try to explore, that's when the magic happens. All right, so let's kind of riff on this topic a little bit and maybe add some sort of melodic soundscape underneath the pad itself, okay? That's very textural by nature, okay? So let's use pigments here, okay? You guys love pigments, so do I. And instead of just using a wavetable, let's use the modal engine, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use some of these modes here to our advantage. For example, the transient mode, okay? So you can see here that there's all kinds of different, you have modern, organic. I'm a big fan of organic. And this is sort of adding the initial hit here. So let's go ahead and play this, right? Okay. But if we adjust our attack here to around 5 seconds, add some decay, lower down the sustain and the release, okay? And then instead of the, the friction exciter, we go to granular and lower down the rate. Okay? Now we're taking that initial strike and we're slowing it down. Okay? So this is almost like what I was doing on plates. And you can find the sample that you like. Harmonic. Sitar, right? Oh yeah. And of course we have a shaper here. We can morph the shaper and the timbre. Oh yeah, listen to that. We can quantize the warp mode. Oh my God. Let's take a random here and we'll use, say, a random. The retrigger source can be free running. We'll put the rate to hertz and we'll slow it down and we'll drag random 1 over to the warp here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let me add some volume to this so you guys can hear it. I'm just holding down 2 A notes. But you can hear, now we're really getting some detail in that. Let's add that reverb and delay. The Sign's evil laugh. Oh, I love that. Wow. That's incredible. Okay, I'm gonna go with that. I think that's just a really good, solid example of when you modulate certain parameters and you start going for texture rather than note placement, chord choice. That's when you start feeling things. Because you're injecting the human element into your process, and therefore the connection is immediate and it's very obvious. Oh yeah. So nice. Wow. Incredible. We can even do further modulation here. Let's go one step further. We'll take a random LFO, we'll smooth it out. Reach source can be free running. Lower down the hertz rate. Drag it up to, say, the morph as well. Oh yeah. Love that. Increase the range. Oh my gosh, that's so good. All right, I'm just gonna lay in, say, an 8-bar loop here. And my initial move is gonna be just adding the 2 root notes. But then I'm gonna add a couple other notes as well. So we'll add, say, that high F note. Theme of the day here. The high F note can come in as well as a C note to kind of make it a minor affair. Let's go and restart the whole thing. Oh yeah. I mean, I just want to make it clear that this is just the beginning of this patch. You could add some sort of creative filtering here. You could add a comb filter. You could add another engine. You could add a sample. Let your mind go crazy. Okay, so we got that. Oh my gosh. And I think that really drives home point number 2. Okay, so we're cooking. Point number 3, let silence speak. Leave gaps. Use long tails. Allow sounds to decay naturally. Reverb and delay aren't just effects. They shape the emotional architecture of your piece. Think of them as mood amplifiers. Now, fans of the channel know there's not a reverb out there that I haven't tried. However, when you pair reverb with a really good moment of texture and then silence, that's when you start to feel that void, that chasm, that 30-second decay time. And what it allows you to do is inject moments where the listener is able to breathe, to collect their thoughts. And then you can reintroduce all the other elements of your piece for as just as powerful as an emotional impact. So let's talk about this. How do we inject silence into a drone piece like this that already exists? Well, the first thing we could do is, of course, we could go over to arrangement view, and then you can spread your tracks out, spread your chords out, start adding silence. That's one idea for you. However, the other thing we can do is start adding sequences that have gaps in them to create the illusion that we're sort of slowing down or there's moments of calm and space in between. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna drag this Harmony Bloom instance over here. We'll use Harmony Bloom here, all right, to create a sequence. Again, I'm playing an A minor, so I'll use the minor scale. A minor. I'll switch the scale to pentatonic minor. And we'll adjust the even and free offset here. Adjust the speed offset. We'll add a bunch more notes. There we go. And maybe we'll add 2 more trigger bars here. Up our loop length to like 32 or 64. I'm gonna go with 64. So it's even more of a gap. And then we're gonna lower the probability down to like half, okay? So half the time, we're gonna get a note. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, that's okay. Let's lower down the note minimum to like, I don't know, A1, A0, that's good. And we'll up the note max to like A4. So now we have a 4-octave range of possibility here. That's good. Okay, we're locked in. All right, let's go ahead and use this now on our track. As you can see, it's already in motion, but you can see it's moving so slow that maybe we're gonna get some notes, maybe we're not. That's okay, really doesn't matter. I'm just trying to drive this point home. Let's go up to 32, how about that? There we go. All right, cool. Now, let's go ahead and create some sort of fluctuating sequence that really has some emotion, all right? So let's go ahead and use Serum 2 for that. Let's use a wavetable and a granular sample. That might be really cool, okay? So let's go ahead and use a digital wavetable here. I'll pick one at random. The dying sign, maybe. How about, let's go, ooh, FM piano. There we go. We'll use the FM piano here, okay? And we're gonna create a pluck. So of course we lower our sustain down, add like 2 seconds of decay. Release could be whatever, okay? And we'll add a little bit of warp here. So we'll use the FM from B. And oscillator B can just be a sine wave, okay? And we'll turn it off. So this is gonna be our modulator. This will be our carrier over here. So we'll use that, and we'll also use a sample and hold, okay? So sample and hold here can be a retrig, and we'll drag this over here. There we go. And we'll turn the rate all the way to frozen, just like I did in the other video, all right? Cool. Now, let's use a granular engine here. So I'll switch it to granular, we'll go to factory, and maybe we'll use like one of these spatial, Icarus. Oh, I like that. And we'll change the mode here to manual, so we can move the position here to like somewhere around the middle, okay? Add some density, change the length here. That's good. And now let's go ahead and add all 3 of these through the filter. Add some drive. And we'll make a second envelope here. And that envelope can be our filter envelope. Perfect. And finally, we'll add that reverb and delay. Okay? So add some reverb, add some delay. And for those of you who use Ableton, I'm gonna go MIDI from Harmony Bloom, switch to Harmony Bloom and put it to in. And now we're just gonna wait. So do you hear now where those tones and textures are coming from? Harmony Bloom is sort of giving us a sequence that you really never know what to expect. But with all the work that we did in Serum 2, it really adds that subtle texture and that space that we're looking for. So without even changing what was underneath it, we almost added silence of our own. And when you use both of these techniques combined, the arrangement thing and sequences like this, the sky's the limit. We could even do some more subtle work here. We could, you know, maybe move up the wavetable position with another LFO. Oh yeah. This is fantastic. I love that. I mean, you could change the octave here of your modulator wave. Like, come on now. There's really no end to this. Anyway, that's gorgeous. Wow, combine that with what we have over here in Pigments and Serum, and then starting where we started from. This is emotional. You can feel it. It's not perfect, but that's the point. Okay, so that's point number 3, is using your reverb, using your delay, and using silence, most of all, to really amplify the emotional architecture of your piece. All right, final point here. Infuse your tracks with real meaning. A field recording from a significant place, a synth patch made during a specific moment, or even just a channeling a mood that you were in. For example, the album I listened to this morning, Temporal Tenderness. She had, you know, crickets from her house on the last track. Like, it was like she wanted to transport us there. She said, I just wanted to create or recreate the feeling of what it's like at my house at night. Listeners may not know the story, but they feel the weight behind it. So anything that you can do to add more of yourself into your tracks, that's what's going to create the emotion. It doesn't matter where it comes from. It could be a super low quality field recording from your phone. Even that would be something that the listener would say, there's something there. And maybe they might recognize it as something else. And maybe it transports them to another place that they recognize. And it doesn't just necessarily have to be a place. It can be anything. Sounds come from anywhere. Emotions are wide ranged. So that's how you develop a connection with your listener. You put yourself into it and let the universe decide the rest. All right. One more element here to really, really drive this piece home. All right. So what I'm going to do is I will create sort of a pluck lead sound in Vital so I can start adding more of my own emotion into the piece. Okay. I'll show you what I mean. So for those of you who are wondering how I create my wavetables, I do it like this. I come over to the wavetable editor. Okay. Click on the pencil tool here in Vital. This is a free synthesizer, by the way. Right click and I randomize it. And then you can right click again and clear right. And what that means is you're taking all the upper harmonics away. And then you can go ahead and shape this to taste. Okay? You can also do the same with the phase here on the second row. So now you have a shape here that's kind of unique. Very interesting. That's keyframe number 1. Keyframe number 2, you repeat the process. All right? Clear the right, randomize the phase. And as you can see, it's a much different shape than the first one. Maybe shave off some of the upper harmonics here, make it a little smoother. All right, I'll get out of the way here so you guys can see. And I'm gonna repeat the process for the third keyframe. Clear the right, randomize, and maybe I'll add some upper harmonics back here to give it a little more textural. You can also zoom in and out with the gear button right here. I'll add some more upper harmonics here. And finally, I'll create one more, randomize it again, clear the right, randomize it, clear right, randomize, chop off some of those upper harmonics, and there you go. So now, as I scan through, you can see we have a really interesting wavetable here. So that's my process. It's very simple, it's very straightforward, but I've used it in all the Anomaly series, and it's not like I just do that, but you know, that's a good place to start. Okay, so now we can modulate this wavetable. As you can see, I can go into 3D view. We have a nice, cool wavetable that we can work with here, all right? So let's use this to create sort of a lead sound. We'll go 2.5 seconds of attack, 2 seconds of decay, lower down the sustain, up the release here. And we'll use the filter, and we'll make a secondary envelope. So 2 seconds, 2 seconds, lower down the sustain, kind of making like a triangle shape, if you will. And that's gonna be our filter envelope. So I'm gonna drag envelope 2 over to the filter and lower down its amount. We'll add a sub oscillator. We'll go to the factory, basic shapes, hold shift and lower down the octave by 1 octave. Make it a triangle, lower down its level. And finally, let's add a third wavetable here. I'll go to the factory library. We'll choose, say, the classic fade. All right? But the classic fade can have a bunch of unison on it. And what we'll do is, we'll do the same trick that we did in the first pad, where we'll use a random, very slow. So we'll set a slow random here to modulate the detune amount ever so slightly, okay? Cool. We can also use that same random to modulate the fade amount, if you will. And finally, we'll add a harmonic stretch here. Let's add another random to the harmonic stretch. And maybe lower down its amount. There we go. There we go. So now let's hear what we got. Go ahead and play this. yeah. Oh, yeah. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Now that may not sound like much, but check this out. Let's go ahead and make sure that every single oscillator is going through filter 1. And what we'll do is we'll add some effects here. I'm gonna use all Vitals effects, just so you guys can keep it in-house. Up the attack, up the release. We're adding a multi-band compressor. Let's add a delay. Make it ping pong, okay? Tempo dotted, so we have a dotted 8th note ping pong delay, just like I do in my send effects. We'll add some distortion and put it on downsample. Use one of those randoms on the drive amount, lower down its amount. And finally, we'll add a reverb here. Take the lows down, so you're almost doing like a high cut, high pass, really. Add some time, add some size. Up the mix to around 65%. And now, let's play this. Oh yeah. So as you can hear, it's those subtle detune amounts that really bring out the whole vibe and the whole feeling. And something like Vital can really cut through the mix. And even though we have such a thick atmosphere here that we've created all the way from that modular sample that we started with 30 minutes ago, listen to it now. That's emotional ambient music. So hopefully you've taken my techniques today and you're gonna start to embrace them. Because like I said, I get a lot of question about chords and structure, but when you're trying to go for emotion, throw all of that out or just put it aside and really dive into your own process and experiment, try new things. And when you do that, you're gonna find that tracks are gonna start coming easier. You're gonna make more progress, and ultimately, you're gonna start finishing albums and offering them to the world to have people resonate with your message, to have people connect to what you're trying to say through sound. Hopefully that helped you guys. I certainly enjoyed making this. If you guys want more tutorials, as you know, I am on Patreon. I do tons of extra tutorials on there, and there is hundreds and hundreds of hours of training already on Patreon, going back all the way to 2001. So if you want to support me and you want to support this channel and you want extra training and tons of presets, head on over to my Patreon. I'll leave a link down below in the description. Whew. This is fun. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. I truly appreciate it. Feel free to leave your comments down below. I love hearing from the positive ones. You know, you guys are my people. You know who you are. Anyway, I'll be back again soon with more videos just like this one. In the meantime, take good care, you guys. And as always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. I'm Chris from Signs of Life, and I'll see you guys in the next video.